Alright, so we've been able to fit our shield booster on our Bantam, uh, now that we've got our first shield skill in the bag. As you can see, our capacitor will only last 14 seconds if we try to run all of our modules at once. Now, your shield booster, especially on a small frig when you're low skilled, you're only going to very rarely cycle it when your shield is very low. You'll turn it on, it'll boost it up, turn it right back off. We'd also never be in a situation where we're going to be running both our miner and our blaster for any real extended period of time. So it's not too much of a concern, but it does show that with limited skills, even just a few very basic modules um, will last only a very short time before completely burning out our capacitor and having one of our modules turn itself off until the capacitor can come back. Um, we've also gone ahead and put in our job for production for that agent. It's going to take a few hours just to even start, so we won't finish that anytime soon. And I did have to buy 117 tritanium off the market for a very small quantity of ISK in order to be able to put it into production. That was the requirement. I'm sorry, 152 tritanium were required to start up that production. Astrometrics, we still have 10 minutes, so while we're waiting on events for these two, agents, we're ready to pick another one at random. Let's see which profession this takes us down. And I'm reading, and I'm not quite sure what he wants me to do, other than it's obviously a hauling mission, but I'm not sure if this is going to end up becoming something a little more exciting. Um, so we will go ahead and accept the mission, see what this is. It might literally just be courier missions. Hauling can be a very lucrative profession, not just from what the NPCs will pay you, but players can create contracts in which you haul their goods for them, and that can make money, or just taking advantage of the fact that things cost different amounts of ISK in different regions. Um, Hauling minerals from pretty much anywhere to the main trade hub in this area called Jita is almost guaranteed to be profitable, especially if you get those through buy orders. Um, so let's go ahead, go in our inventory, put these data sheets inside of our cargo hold so we don't do what I did last time. Um, so one data sheet needs to come to this assembly plant there. Now, right now, all my agents say that their division is distribution, just because they're these initial training agents, if you will. So it's hard to tell exactly what type of missions they're going to offer you. In the future, the different divisions will let you know exactly what you're going to be doing for that agent. Of course, the most popular type of agent is going to be the security one, it's just the combat missions. Although even a combat agent is still going to occasionally send you on a courier task or to do some other type of thing. But on the whole, security is going to be combat, which is what a lot of people are going to be looking for. Generally, if you want to become a miner or a hauler or that type of thing, you're not going to do it for agent missions. You're just going to go out and do it and take part in the open economy. But as you can see, we can have multiple missions going on at once. We're still waiting, of course, on things to continue these two, so we'll be going down this path with this third agent. It looks like each of those 5 agents do have 10 missions that they're offering for a total of 50 missions, and it is going to be my goal to go ahead and run through all 50 of those missions and see how they end. I know eventually you go down a large storyline arc from the Sisters of Eve. Um, I'm very curious to see exactly what that entails and what sort of rewards you get for it and what type of tasks they give you. Um, that's a newer part of the new player experience. So we can see my capacitor down here, which even just warping does use up some of your capacitor, brought me down. And I'm wondering if I can stop myself from docking here. what I want to demonstrate is, so right now I'm at 98% my capacitor. The closer you are to 100 or to 0, the slower your capacitor recharges. When you're closest to 50% is when it's going to be recharging fastest. So we've got 123. If I turn on my shield booster for even just that single cycle, and it looks like I didn't click it a second time, it cycled twice and brought us all the way down to 75, and you can see how much quicker it's charging back up. Actually, it looked like it was down close to 60%, and each time it was boosting my shield or repairing my shield for 23 HP. So in cycling it twice, it did 46 HP, which is actually a pretty significant amount. I only have 156 on my shield, so in just a matter of seconds, it could fully boost my shield. Of course, at that point, my ship would have no capacitor, and I wouldn't be able to shoot anything or do much of anything. And I am not actually sure which of these agents is the correct one. Let's try this guy. Ah, here it is. So we'll complete this mission. So now it's talking about salvaging. You can put a salvage module on your ship and salvage wrecks for um, various items, mechanical parts, circuits, metals. The bigger the wreck, the better the stuff you get. Player wrecks especially are lucrative. So they are going to give me a civilian salvager, which, as it says, isn't actually useful for anything outside of these missions. After that, you'd have to purchase a salvager 1, which I don't even have a clue what that would cost, so let's take a look. And you don't have to type a full module name. You do have to start typing with what it starts with, but I can just type a portion of salvage and then click on salvager 1. And as you can see, they're very inexpensive, 36,000 ISK, and they only require, actually they require a decent amount of skill. Survey to level 3, which would be 3 hours of training. Mechanic to level 3, which is another 3.5 hours, and then finally salvaging 1. So you're looking at 7-8 hours of training plus a couple of skill books to be able to get that one trained up before you can really start salvaging. Yeah, at that point, all you do to salvage is lock a wreck and turn on a salvager, and it turns it into something useful. So let's take a look, see if they've dropped anything in our cargo hold before I leave here. Yes, they have given us the survey and salvaging books. I'm going to go ahead and put them both in the queue, but then I'm going to drag them lower into the priority. I don't want these that immediately. We're not actually going to be able to even inject salvaging because we don't have the prerequisite Survey 3 or Mechanic 3, so I'm just going to drop this in our cargo hold. And we'll go to our skill queue. And we're going to take Survey down a little bit to after missile launcher operation. And since Mechanic 3 was also one of our upcoming prerequisites, we should probably go ahead and add that in. That's a 3-hour one. I'm going to add that right after Caldari Frigate. The old system in EVE when I got started didn't actually have this training queue where you could set up queues. You could only be training one skill at a time. So when you wanted to be training all these 3-minute, 6-minute, 7-minute, 3-hour skills, you had to be at the computer, and as one would end, you'd have to manually start the next. So definitely appreciate this new skill queue where I don't have to worry about my skills for 1 day and 8 hours, that I'm going to stay productive during that whole time. So that's definitely one of the best features they've ever added in EVE Online. So let's go back to our agent. We can go ahead and set our destination so we don't have to worry about going to the wrong system. And it looks like he's going to give us a civilian salvager, and then we're going to be able to go to this dead space and use it. This is also the first time that we have ship restrictions. You can only go into this area with a destroyer, rookie ship, frigate, cruiser, industrial, or shuttle. Of course, we only own frigates and a rookie ship, so it's not much of a concern. It'll be a while before we're in something larger than a cruiser or a destroyer. And we can't accept it remotely, so we will be having to go to the system before we can accept that mission.
Warp drive active.
But that does become more important when you get into, say, level 3 missions. Maybe you're trying to do them all in a battleship, and occasionally you will hit, I want to say, level 3 missions that only allow you a battle cruiser or above. So always pay attention. You can waste some time trying to go into something with too large a ship. And it looks like we're going to be getting a second Bantam. When we complete this mission. Don't know what I'll do other than sell it, although I guess there's always the chance I'll get this one blown up, so maybe I'll hold on to it for the time being. I'd imagine when I go through the combat missions, they'll begin offering more combat-oriented ships as a reward.
Warp drive active.
Major part of EVE is corporations. Everybody is in a corporation. You'll start out in an NPC corporation like the one I'm in, which there's 900 people logged in, so it's a large one. But generally, they don't have any bearing in the game, except they're going to take 10% of all of your mission rewards and other things. But for the most part, NPC corporations are just there for people who don't want to be involved in player corporations. I highly recommend getting involved in a player corporation. It's the equivalent of a guild,
Permission requested.
you know, or whatever else they're called in whatever MMOs you've perhaps played in the past. But in EVE, they're especially important that so many tasks are necessary to be in a corp, and you can definitely learn so much. So after you've been playing a few weeks, done some agent missions, built up some skills, I definitely recommend looking at joining a corp. Corps are usually going to be somewhat specialized. They're going to be more Care Bear based. So it looks like we're going to be doing some salvaging, so I'm going to go ahead and fit my new salvager that I just got. And we're not going to be doing any mining, so we'll go ahead and take off our mining laser and drop on our salvager. But yeah, corporations are generally going to be somewhat specialized. They're going to focus more on production and mining and other Care Bear type activities, or they're going to be focused on PvP, or maybe they do a lot of incursions and they're very PvE based. There's of course faction warfare corporations, at which all the opposing factions, faction warfare corps become hostile to you, which is very PvP oriented. So there's definitely a variety of corps out there, and of course any one corp will do a certain amount of different activities, or even if it's a PvP corp, people will run missions or do other things in order to make some money for themselves. So now I'm trying to determine exactly what I need to do next for this mission. Once outside, we need to warp to the mission location and approach the acceleration gate. Unfortunately, I am not seeing I believe balancing the books is the current mission I'm on that involves the salvaging. Aha, and Garrus, we need to go to a new system. That's why I'm struggling. So we'll go ahead and make our first jump.
Warp drive active.
So it looks like on this mission what we're going to be doing is there's a wreck in a dead space. I'll lock the wreck, I'll use the salvager on it. That should give us this one black box. And then at that point we'll be able to come back and claim our reward of ISK and a ship. All missions will have a bonus reward if you complete it in a given amount of time. Usually that amount of time is just far more than you'll ever need. I believe it's based upon how long it takes the average player. But that time, as long as you actively pursue that mission, will give you plenty of time to get that bonus every time.
Warp drive active.
Whenever something does happen and needs your attention over on the left, you'll get that flashing. Right now, I've been adding a lot of agents, so that's been getting on my peoples and places listing. Contacts can be very important, especially again as you get into a player corporation and you start dealing with standings. Perhaps there's another corporation which is hostile to your corporation and people who are generally trying to do bad things to you, and you can set them to negative standings, bad, terrible, so that they'll appear on your HUD as opposed to green, like this my corp mate here in my NPC corp. They'll actually appear red and very clearly, obviously, are hostile towards you. That doesn't actually allow you to do anything to them, just lets you know that you don't get along with them. And alternatively, you can set people to blue in good standing, so that if you're, let's say you're living in lawless space, 0-0 space, where there is no repercussions for blowing up another player, makes it easier to know who is your friend and who you shouldn't be attacking. So while it doesn't have any actual mechanic effect, it's very important uh, to see who's actually friendly with you or
Warp
not.
drive active.
This is actually a very large amount of jumping for a mission. It's rare that you have missions that require you to jump, 3 times out. If you were doing combat missions, it's only these courier, salvaging, industrial type missions which seem to enjoy making you run around. And so now we're in our destination system. Can warp out to the encounter.
Warp drive
Now here's a player who's
active.
appearing red on our display, and that's because of his very, very low security status. This means he has attacked other players without provocation um, in point 0.1 or above space. Each time you do that, your security status goes lower and lower and lower. Eventually, simply coming into high security space, you'll be attacked on sight by the NPCs. You can get this back up by just killing hostile NPCs or red NPCs, the ones that are hostile to everybody. Simply going into an asteroid belt, into almost any system, and hopping between the asteroid belts, you will eventually encounter NPCs that you can
Warp
destroy. The more
drive
you destroy, the
active.
better your security status gets. But it can definitely take a while to recover from something like negative 6.9. And it looks like we'll have a hostile to engage before we
Skill
get to
training
scoop
completed.
up or salvage our wreck. An important module that we haven't seen yet are propulsion modules, the forms of afterburners and micro warp drives. These make your ship go much faster than it otherwise can and can be very important, especially on smaller ships like a frigate. Um, of course, I just really haven't had much of a need or the money or the skills. But that's something that you'll definitely encounter and is very key in any ship fitting. And let's see if my blaster can reach out that far. Looks like it's missing. So you can see my optimal range being only 500 and this NPC being almost, 5,000 meters away. All of my shots up here are just completely missing and he is taking no damage. Once I get within about 1,500 meters, um, I'll expect to maybe start hitting, although still not at full damage. Okay, yeah, about 1,900 meters and I've started hitting. And there he goes. And so we'll approach our civilian transport wreck here and get it locked. And once we're within 2,500 meters, we can start running our salvager on it. Better and better salvagers will salvage faster and also have a higher rate of success. In this case, you can see I actually failed in my first attempt. And it's cycling again, and it failed again. But eventually we will succeed and have be able to get the black box that we need for our mission. I'm going to try and approach this wreck here and loot it while at the same time salvaging. Let's make sure I don't go out of range though. And there's some metal scraps, so it's a little bit of money for us. So it looks like we succeeded. I wasn't paying attention and didn't notice it, so now at this point we can go ahead and open up the wreck. And our black box is inside there, thanks to our salvaging efforts. So now we need everything, we have everything that we need for our mission and can return. And to make life easier, I'm going to go ahead and set a destination.
Warp drive active.
And let's check on our training queue. Okay, it looks like we have just a few minutes left on Survey 1, which on its own isn't actually going to be terribly useful for us. I'll have to pretty quickly set that right back into the queue to get that all the way up to 3. And that'll be the end of this video. I won't make you watch me jump and turn in more missions. Hopefully by the time I reach my next video, I'll have some more skills and some more missions ready to do, and I will see you then.